Hello and welcome to the final pregame live. That makes me a little bit upset. What is going on? I am Matt O'Leary, going to be hanging out with you to preview the New York Jets going up against the Miami Dolphins in Week 18, final game of the season. What is going on? We'll go through the inactives. We'll talk about some stuff. We'll answer your questions. We'll talk as much game as possible. I mean, I know that you can't control it. I know there's going to be some offseason stuff. Believe me, we'll have more than enough time to go through tons and tons of offseason scenarios, quarterback, everything, all that good stuff. So before we hop into it, just want to talk to you guys about Mojo. Garrett Wilson is now at 1527 going into week 18, down slightly over the last 24 hours. Does he finish the season on a high note with Joe Flacco? Remember, one of his better games was with Joe Flacco in week 2. Also, going into next year, like you might want to get in on it now and then watch as it grows over time. You can go long, you can go short on guys. You know the drill with Mojo. They are live in New Jersey. Sign up using my link down below in the description of this video. Get involved, have lots of fun. Garrett Wilson is someone we talked about a lot this year and is, in my opinion, someone to keep a close eye on over on Mojo. There we go. So let's hop over to inactives because this is a big one for the game today. Mike White is inactive. No shock there as he still has 5 broken ribs. Why the hell was he playing last week? CJ Uzama inactive. That means Jeremy Ruckert season. He will be activated at number 89, Long Island's own. Jeremy Ruckert will be activated today. Please feed him the football. Let's get the young guys involved as much as humanly possible today. No James Robinson, not necessarily surprising after the last few weeks. No Bradley Anai. Honestly forgot he was around. No Irvin Charles as well. So the New York Jets going to be looking, I guess, slightly different today in this matchup against the Miami Dolphins. And we have V-Man chiming in with a super chat already. V-Man, what's going on, my friend? He says, okay, guy, to cheer everyone up, you get 2 picks. What voice I will call in for this week's Just Jets podcast? Krang from OG TMNT or Skeletor from OG He-Man? I think I like Skeletor. But you guys in the comments can drop that in there. You can drop it in there. Who you guys would want to see. V-Man, I appreciate the support as always. He's always hanging out with us, always sending in super chats. Appreciate your support, V-Man. I'm going to go Skeletor, but I am in on it. So let's pop into some of these comments and questions. We got Jets Chaos hanging out with us in here. Thank you so much, Jets Chaos. We're going to be on at halftime. Myself, Ryan, Green Bean over on Green Bean's channel, and Jeremy from Jets Chaos. We'll be hanging out at the last game of the regular season. This makes me sad, guys. Makes me sad that it's coming to a close. Absolutely love it. Molan Lab, I think. Molan Lab. I don't know. I've never seen this name before. It says rooting for a loss. I don't blame you. I've made it pretty clear my stance. I'm kind of just going to go numb. Whatever happens, happens. If they win, so be it. If they lose, also so be it. It is what it is. Brian Bogan, he's a member of the channel. What's going on? Thank you so much for joining. You could join as well and become a member down below. And get yourself some nice fire stuff next to you. So who are we rooting for in the postseason? Great question. Bengals are a fun team. In the AFC, I like the Bengals. I like the Chiefs. I know some people are tired of the Chiefs, but obviously no AFC East teams. Even though, I mean, the Bills, for just what they've dealt with Hamlin, thank God he's doing a little bit better. I saw that he responded to a tweet in Sauce Gardner wearing his jersey. I'll pull that up. Sauce Gardner wore the number 3 today for Hamlin, and DeMar Hamlin replied, "Too much sauce." So glad to see that from him. Things you just absolutely love to see. That makes me really, really happy. In the NFC, I like the 49ers in the NFC. Eagles fans, slightly annoying, so I'm not really going to be rooting for the Eagles. Jaguars are a cool story, but I don't see them going very far. Yeah, it stinks when you're on the outside looking in for the 12th year in a row. Rich says Strebler. There we go. Maybe we'll see him. Jets Chaos says I will call in with my Grover voice. Yeah, why not just get all the different voices out there? We might as well give Tyler, the guy who helps me out with the voicemails and with editing, give him some fun ones to listen to. I love it. Prestige Shogun says Dable, Matt LaFleur, and Mike Tomlin lost 5 straight. Should they be fired? No. And I also don't think Robert Saleh should be fired. Granted, some of them are in a little bit different circumstances. Like Tomlin hasn't had a losing season in his entire coaching career. LaFleur, a couple NFC championship games, they turned it around. Dable, rookie coach, has done really well. But I agree with the point that you're trying to make that Robert Saleh should not be fired after today. And I think his job is safe. Jamie says, I just want to see a good game. Please don't look like a bunch of fools playing football. Yeah, it's, they haven't scored a touchdown in 2 weeks. So can we start there? It'd be nice to see this team get into the end zone on Sunday. Is that asking too much to see your favorite football team score a touchdown? Curly says, appreciate the Jets therapy session. Follows it up with another meaningful game in the last week of the season. Yay, us. I get positive was how many meaningless games have we watched over the last few years for the Jets? They usually start a lot earlier. This is the first one, and it's the last week of the season, which is a step in the right direction. They're going to finish with 7 or 8 wins, which is where pretty much every Jet fan thought they'd be. It's just unfortunate when you get off to the start that you do, that you limp to the finish line like this. That really sucks. There's no denying that. That is extremely unfortunate. I hate that. Let's see what else we got in here. Kareem says top 10 pick incoming. There's a chance. I mean, imagine that. And go from a team that was fighting for a playoff spot up until week 17 of the regular season and then ends up with the top 10 pick somehow. Wild. Absolutely wild. Joe S says, why root for a win with Flacco as the quarterback? Joe's going to have a hard time today with this offensive line. He really struggled to move in the pocket this year. He was never someone who moved around very well, but at this point, a 38-year-old Joe Flacco, or whoever, I think he's 38. He's up there in age, and it's tough for him moving around back there. He's going to get crushed, and he may fumble a couple times today. Yeah, like what Jets Chaos is saying, at least it took to week 17 to not matter. They were in it most of the year, in it a lot longer than a lot of people thought. I thought maybe, they'd be like 6-6 through 12 games and then hang around and be, 7-10 or 8-9. And that's not, they're going to get to 7-10 or 8-9, but in the way that they got there is just as bizarre. Robert S. says, what do you think about the Titans missing 23 players and almost winning that game last night? All about coaching? I guess, yeah. I guess a lot of it is. A lot of it also has to do with quarterback play too. And Dobbs wasn't terrible; he was fine in that game. So, the Jets have had worse than I don't even know how you could describe their quarterback play the last three weeks or so. 4 weeks, something. No, 3 weeks. God G says, think it was an ESPN guy that said this morning that Woody is not happy and someone is going to have to answer for the Zach debacle. I guess, I mean, we can't put that past Woody Johnson, who, as I said a few times earlier this week already, is someone who has been known to make these big decisions and big switches. I don't think I would pull the plug on this coaching staff if there is going to be a fall guy for this staff. I would imagine LaFleur would be that guy. Maybe they swing big and try to bring in a Frank Reich, something like that. But I'm sorry, is this real? Steven Zantz, who, by the way, he is the co-host of TOJ Live with Steven Russo over on Turn on the Jets. He tweeted out this picture. Joe Flacco looks miserable today. Absolutely miserable going into the game. Can I go home yet? Joe Flacco, this is the starting quarterback going into today's game. Poor guy. Man, That's a guy who knows that he's missing multiple offensive linemen, and is going to get hit. Poor guy. Ugh. Rich says, is Zach dressed? Yes, he is QB2 today. Rich. Jacob Klein says, if we can get Mike McDaniels after he gets fired for all that, they shouldn't fire him. That would be pretty nuts. I would imagine if he did get fired, I would think that he runs right back to the 49ers, but who knows? Maybe he would come here. Buffalo Jet, what's up, man? He's hanging out with us. He said, I forgot what it means to watch a Jets game without caring. And hey, we made it all the way to the last game before it happened. We've seen a lot worse. Buffalo, you're 100% right. Thank you for tuning in, my friend. Hopefully you enjoy the game as much as I guess we can enjoy a Week 18 game. That doesn't mean anything, but you're right. They were in it all the way to the end. That's what we wanted for this year. You got to answer on Zach. It's a frustrating year, but I don't think failure is the one. Joe says maybe Mims can score his first career touchdown today, considering how great he is. Oh God. Do people think he's great? I think I don't know, serviceable depth receiver maybe we can get for Denzel Mims. Maybe he's wide receiver 4 next year. Yeah, I would think he's probably Garrett, Elijah, another receiver, and Denzel is wide receiver 4. I think that's probably the move for next year. I don't see Corey Davis coming back. Prestige Shogun says, good citizen Patriots ain't getting in even if Miami loses. Yeah, I think, honestly, if Miami loses, I think there's a really good, if the Jets beat Miami today, I think the Steelers are making the playoffs. And I guess I would rather see the Steelers make the playoffs than either the Dolphins or the Patriots. I guess that could be a positive spin. And Micro Fox says Flacco's going to fake an injury. We'll see Zach. Honestly, really would not surprise me at all if we see Zach Wilson at some point today because of hits that Flacco takes. Jets chaos. This sounds about right. He says prediction. Joe gets banged up. Zach comes in and balls out, making the offseason more confusing. That'd be pretty on brand for everything, wouldn't it? God G says, I don't see any reason why Flacco was playing. Strevler or Zach should have started. I feel Strevler's pretty unserious. It would have been fun, though. That would have been a wild one. With Zach, I think that he is so broken that they just don't feel like they want to play him. But then at the same time, then why even dress him? I don't know. I don't understand the reasoning anymore. I'm just gonna get through. We're all gonna get through this game together. I don't know what the plan is, but we'll figure it out. Curly says starting 7-4 and finishing 7-10 or 8-9 sounds like a failure to me. I don't know. It kind of. I mean, it's not great, but you got to look at all the circumstances for what goes into why they lost those 5 games. Part of it was coaching. Also, they got abysmal quarterback play and a million injuries. So it is what it is. It sucks, but that's it. Snowball is very upset. He goes, Flacco gets injured. Zach tears ACL. Jets without quarterback next year. Yeah, they're going to just have Elijah Moore play quarterback, I guess, right? Ryan Bogan. Here we go. Who's putting on a Jets uni for the last time today? I'll give you a few off the top of my head. Corey Davis. George Fant's not playing, so I guess technically not George Fant. Maybe Carl Lawson, unless he restructures instead of getting cut. Hopefully not Bryce Huff. Please, for the love of God, re-sign him. Maybe Quincy, the linebackers, Quincy Williams, CJ Mosley, Quan Alexander, all 3 of those guys. Now, I don't think they lose all 3, but I don't think they're bringing back all 3 of those guys either. So maybe 1 or 2 of those guys. Solomon Thomas, Nathan Shepard, potentially. Connor McGovern could be playing his last game as a Jet. Zach Wilson could be his last one. Barrios is a sneaky one. That might be his last game as a Jet. There's a few in here. Steven says Joe gets hurt and Barrios finishes out the game at quarterback. Yeah, he did throw a touchdown pass this year. Happened. It was all the way back in week 4. Jets chaos. There we go. Sheldon Rankins. Yep, probably Sheldon Rankins. Dan NY says, why don't you think Kwan or Quincy are coming back? That's not what I said. I think that they could bring one, maybe both of them back, but they are both pending UFAs. So that's why they could be playing their last game as the Jet. Mindy asked Matt, why not give Striveler a chance? This game means nothing. He has more future value than Flacco. Staff likes Flacco. They compare him to a Ford truck when things get tough. You don't appreciate him in September and October, but when things get nasty, turn it over to Joe Flacco, which is what they're doing. I don't know. I'm shrugging my shoulders because it is what it is. Braden Mann. Oh, yeah. Thank you. How did I forget about Braden Mann? Thank you, David. Thank you, 7. Hennessy says the Jet staff tried out smart other teams, but they actually overthink themselves. That's true. They do, I think, make life a little bit more difficult on themselves. They overthink at times. And that's probably one of their bigger flaws about this staff. I think that they should bring back Robert Saleh. I don't think that Douglas should look to hire another coach. But there's growing pains involved. There's definitely growing pains. Alex says, what's up, Matt? I have the Jets losing 24-0. I don't think Skylar Thompson's putting up 24. I think this is going to be an ugly game. 16-9. Something like that. I'll say 16-9. I don't know if the Jets win or lose. I think it's just going to be a terrible, terrible game. There might be a pick 6 involved with either team, with either Flacco or Skylar Thompson. Like, let's not forget who the Miami's starting today. Skylar Thompson was awful against the Jets in, what was that, week 5? I was trying to think of what week it was. Week 5. Sauce Gardner had an interception. Maybe Sauce gets it in today. That'd be good. I love it. Prestige says, I had the Jets winning 16-7. Yeah, that sounds about right. Absolutely, that sounds about right. Jets Chaos says, Saleh saying Flacco has more time in this league and hinting he will be back makes me puke on my GB Happenstance shirt. You can't bring back Joe Flacco. You can't do it. Do I even have to go into why? You can't. Gotcha. He says, with that offensive line, you'd be miserable too. Talking about the picture I showed of Joe Flacco. Yep. 1000%. I would do the same thing. Brian asks, what's our draft spot in the case of a tie? Good question. Let's bring it up. It's going to be obviously dependent on what some of these other teams do. I'll pull up Tankathon right now. They're currently in 13th, and they have them drafting Anthony Richardson, which I would not do. Can we do NFL home instead? Yeah, there we go. That's what I want to see. It's going to go by win percentage and then strength of schedule. So if they were 7, 9, it would be essentially the same as a loss, right? Because that a win percentage doesn't really impact as a tie. Yeah, somewhere in this, they can get as low as 10 and go all the way up to potentially 22. I don't believe that will be the case. I think with a tie, my guess would be that they would be somewhere around 16, 17, somewhere in there. It's also, like I said, it's dependent on what some of these other teams do as well. Bald God says, I hope Rucker plays a lot today. Yep, I'm with you. I'm with you, man. I think that's the case. I think that's the move. Old God says we should draft quarterback Anthony Richardson. So you want him in the first round? I think he's a little bit of a project. I don't think he's a day one starter. So if you're, I don't think the Jets could afford to take a project in the first round. I think they need to take a tackle. But if you like his upside, then do it, I guess. Micro Fox says the Jags win hurt our draft position. Yeah, that's annoying. Bradley says, if we get Richardson, I'll actually not watch a game next year, coming from a Gators fan. Or coming from a Gators game, maybe Gators fan. Billy SBC says, don't draft a quarterback ever. Yeah, I get the frustration there. It's especially after the last couple whiffs. Believe me, I get it. It stinks. Here's a good one. I'll pull it up. Some nice stuff. Quentin Williams, love for Lamar. Robert Saleh and Brian Baldinger. Got another one. Who is this? Oh, that's someone on the Dolphins, right? Highwood Vaughn. Javon Holland. Didn't recognize him. And Sauce in the jersey and the mask. Kind of looks like Ed Reed. The beard. J Boy, want to see inactives? Hang on, we'll pull them up again for y'all. Inactives. In case you missed that at the top, Mike White, CJ Uzama, James Robinson, Bradley Anai, Irvin Charles. It is Joe Flacco and Zach Wilson as QB1 and QB2. Jeremy Ruckert is tight end 2, I would assume. Hopefully get some reps. Mindy's asking, when do we find out if Klecko makes the Hall of Fame? I believe it's around February when we find out. Hall of Fame announcement, NFL. I'm pretty sure it's leading up. It's leading up to the Super Bowl is when you'll find out. So early February usually. The reason why I remember that is because we found out Curtis Martin was going to the Hall of Fame on, I believe, February 4th, 2012, which is my dad's birthday. It was my dad's 50th birthday when we found out, I think, if I remember correctly. Jets Forever is doing his Zach Love. Love it. It wouldn't be a Jets stream without it, so I appreciate that. Curly says, I wish I was inactive. Oh, God. That's great. Prestige says, I would get rid of J-Rob or MC. They're not getting rid of Michael Carter. They might just not elect to give a tender to James Robinson. I think James Robinson becomes a UFA, and it is Zonovan Knight. It is with Zonovan Knight, Breece Hall, Michael Carter. Those are going to be your 3 running backs next year. Ronald says Flacco needs to retire and stop putting these blemishes on his career. Yeah, I think this is it for him. I think he looks just about done. Yeah, Dan says, do you expect our running back next year to be Breece, MC, and Bam? Yes, that's what I think the 3 running backs are. Billy SBC says, watch Flacco throw for 404 touchdowns, and we will argue if the Jets should have left him as starter. With this offensive line, I find that very, very difficult to believe. I think, unfortunately, you're going to see more of what happened against Buffalo, which was him getting hit and fumbling. The amount of fumbles that he had this year, it's just unfortunate. Curly says Sal will never let the immortal Ty Johnson go. He may. This might be the end of the road for him, unless they bring him back on like a veteran minimum cheap kind of deal. He works his tail off. Bald God says Robinson is better than MC. Well, not this year. He was hurt this year, so it's that's going to play a part of it. They favor the guys that they draft. It's, that's just how they do it. Is Bilal Powell thinking about returning? Because I keep seeing some cryptic tweets from him. Maybe it's too soon to say #football. Then he had another one. Oh, no, it wasn't that one. I have excited news about football. If he started today, there's no doubt in my mind that he couldn't rush for over 4 yards a carry today. There's no doubt in my mind. Dan NY says an unexpected end of the season positive. Moore is no longer a negative. Yeah, Moore, he's been okay down the stretch. Obviously, you'd like more from him next year, no pun intended, but I think he'll be back. I think they smoothed things over. Jets Chaos brings up a good point with Brees, that with him not being 100% next year, I think it'll take maybe about halfway through the year for him to start looking like Brees again, which is why it's important to have guys like Michael Carter or James Robinson, if they elect to do that, and Bam Knight to, hold down the fort, so to speak, for early on in the season when it's getting tough for Brees to make his way back. Zachary says 2023 quarterback that first comes to mind to start for the Jets. Garoppolo. I think Garoppolo and Carr are the two most likely. Garoppolo and his fit in the system. He obviously worked well with LaFleur in San Francisco. I think Garoppolo is probably most likely, followed by Derek Carr. I prefer Carr over Garoppolo because of health, and I just think he's a better quarterback, but those I think are probably the two most likely. Mindy asks thoughts on Becton, any future with the team. He'll be here next year. I don't believe that they're going to cut him. They're not going to give him a 5th-year option after this year. He'll come back last year of his rookie deal, probably be a backup. There's a chance that he could win a starting job, but I don't think you go into next year and plan on him being a starter for this team with him missing the last 2 years. Like it's not like he's missed time over the last 2 years. He's missed entirety of seasons the last 2 years. A Bald God says Jimmy G will be the quarterback next season. Prestige says Jimmy G can't play more than 3 games. Now, thank you, choke artists here. I just, like I said, I prefer Carr over Jimmy G. The staff and the familiarity with Jimmy G makes me think that it's definitely possible. Oh God, James DiPietro says we took Gay, so let's get Tannehill. I guess you could do worse, but man, if Ryan Tannehill starting games for the Jets in 2022 or 2023 rather, that's gonna stink. William says yes or no. Do you consider the Jets ahead of schedule on their rebuild? I think they're on par. Most people thought they'd win 7 or 8 games, which is what's going to happen this year. They have to make the playoffs in 2023. It's as simple as that. Jamie says, who did your dog pick to win today? She had Jets plus, at the time the spread was Jets plus 1.5, which is also what I picked as well. As for everything, Beck is a superstar. When on the field, I think he's good. We haven't seen him on the field in 2020. Justin's on Sunday says, what about Love? Jordan Love, too big of a question mark. How many starts does he have in his career? I'm not, going to give up draft picks for a guy that's an unknown. I don't think he could really do that. Billy SBC says the line cost us 3 to 4 games this year. Yeah, I mean, the injuries to this offensive line and just the offensive line play in general was not good enough. Just wasn't, unfortunately. Joe S says Jets have no quarterback, so the rebuild took a step back. I guess. I think they're going to look to fix that with a veteran, though, in the offseason. So Jacob Finnegan says Jeremy Ruckert time. Yeah, Bill Ruckert's down there. Hopefully he gets a catch for him. That'd be awesome. I'm all in on that. Play the young guys. That's what they should be doing today, is they should be playing the young quarterbacks. What else we got in here? Brian says Jets have shown they can hang with any team when they have decent quarterback play. I don't think a home playoff game is out of the question for next year. I hope that's the case. I mean, it depends on who's starting at quarterback and the level of quarterback play that they are getting from that guy. That's going to be the big question, I think, Brian. Joe S., thank you so much for the super chat. He goes, hit the like button, support the channel. I appreciate you, Joe S. I appreciate everyone in the chat hanging out with me in the pregame. Get a like in here. I'm going to be on for probably about another 10 minutes or so before, I get set for this game. Yeah, it's been fun. Like I said, I'm sad that it's coming to a close. I like doing these pregame streams. It's fun hanging out pregame, talking about it. Unfortunately, this one's more focused on offseason and just thoughts on the future, which I get at this point in the season. I really do understand that. Thank God it's only one game. That really doesn't matter, but there were some positives from this year. Matt, I will be sober enough to feed my kids after the game, or is the smarter move to give them money for food now and start pouring my drinks now? I don't think you're going to be like upset. Maybe you'll have to drink to just get through the game because it's going to be so sloppy and ugly. I might have, a couple during the game, but I don't think I'm going to be going off the rails today. Prestige says, don't care what anybody says. Another good offseason and an answer at quarterback. We're coming for that division title. I hope you're right. That would be fantastic. That'd be so much fun to root for that. That'd be a big step forward. I think, as I said, they have to make the playoffs in 23. This staff knows it, and I think they'll adjust accordingly. Jacob Finnegan says, what's the meal today? I think we're ordering wings. I think that's what I'm doing after I get off. That's my favorite thing to do. Yeah, and I want to close out the season with a bang. Micro asks, how many sacks today? And then we have a few answers. Ronald says 3. Brian says 4 sacks today. Brian Bogan says Q gets 1.5 sacks. I'll say they get 3. I will say 3 sacks. Quinnen 1. Quincy Williams 1. And John Franklin Myers 1. No, not JFM. I'll say Carl Lawson gets 1. In what could be his last game as a Jet. Micro says, I think 6 sacks today would be low. Yeah, they haven't had a ton over the last few weeks, so I'm not going to predict them to have a ton. King Jamie the Mad says, what a great, albeit drama-filled season you Jets had this year. Nobody expected 7 wins. Well done this year. Here's to you, Jet fans. Thank you. Big win for you guys yesterday. Good luck in the playoffs, King Jamie the Mad. Thanks for hanging out with us and supporting some Jets YouTubers and some Jets streams. Really appreciate it. Dave from New Brunswick says flats or drums. I don't have a strong preference. I think the drums are easier to eat. The flats you get more meat with. I know some people are like, oh my God, I'm a drum guy or I'm a flat guy. I guess drums, but I don't really have a preference, I don't think. Micro says, how many flacks on Sacco is how many flacks on Sacco? How many sacks on Flacco is my question. A lot. 5 or 6 would be my guess. Flamer says a Sauce pick 6 would be wonderful. Yeah, sign me the hell up for that, please. That'd be fantastic to clinch the Defensive Rookie of the Year award. John says, nice sharing the season with you, Matt. Yeah, same. Likewise. It was a blast. I love doing these. I love covering this team in the way that I do. I think the Jets YouTube space has a lot of awesome creators. I think we're really, really lucky as Jet fans to have so many good creators, and I really enjoyed the season and diving deep into it. And off-season time, well, I ain't going anywhere. We're gonna have a lot of things to talk about. We're gonna do mock drafts, mock free agencies, try to fix this team and get things right for 2023. Dave says, sorry, I haven't been in here in a while. But is Zach QB2? Yes. Zach is active today as QB2. Joe S. says Flacco is going to fake an injury. Could be. Prestige Shogun says, Matt, I need your take on this. Connor Hughes reportedly said that if he becomes available, the Jets will do everything they can to acquire Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson. Sounds like baloney to me. I don't think he's going to be available. If he is available, he's probably the best option available for this team. You worry with the injuries with him. He's gotten hurt the last couple of years, but his talent and what he can do is just unquestioned. They'd have to change the offense, obviously, with more of a running style quarterback, but he's proven he could still throw the football. Is he ever going to be, top of the leagues as a passer? No, but I think he's better than a lot of people give him credit for throwing the football. He's a damn good player. He just turned, 26? I believe earlier in the week. In his prime, young. Even if his career ends early because he's a running quarterback, he's still probably got another 5 years of elite quarterback play. Now, it's going to cost you a lot because you're going to have to trade for him and then extend him. That's really the only downside there. William says, thoughts on Baker Mayfield? I don't want that. I liked Baker coming out, and I think he could be okay, but better off staying out there with the Rams, back up Stafford for one more year, or start if Stafford doesn't come back. I think, I don't know. I think you'd get eaten alive in New York. Similar to how, the media treats Zach and everything that's gone on with Zach, I think Baker would be the same way. Arizona says, go get Rodgers. That'd be fun. But that's another guy who I don't think is shaking free. I think he's back with Green Bay next year. Lucas says, would you feel more comfortable about Zach's future today if he balls out, if he gets in, or is he a lost cause for you? No, I don't think I'm going to put much stock one way or the other into whatever happens in a meaningless Week 18 game. That wouldn't change how I feel. If Flacco gets hurt in the first quarter, Zach goes out and plays, a half of football, throws 2 touchdowns and 250 yards and a half or something like that, then it is what it is. I think you're still looking to add a veteran. It's not going to change. It's not going to sway me one way or the other what happens this week. Jacob says he's a boneless guy. So you like chicken nuggets is what you're telling me. Ray Sean Davis says, should we keep Corey Davis? I'm not a big fan. I'd be surprised if they do at that price. He's hurt way, 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 way too much. When on the field, he's okay. He's frustrating because he makes a ton of really clutch catches and is a good blocker, but penalties and drops are an issue with him. And he can't stay on the field. So when you add that in, the can't stay on the field part, I think that is the final blow for me. Zach Rosenberg says we need a wide receiver 2 next year. I think Elijah Moore can be your wide receiver 2. I think they need to add another receiver to this group. Honestly, someone that keeps coming up and that I think would make sense would be Allen Lazard. Obviously, we know he works in the Matt LaFleur offense pretty well. They need a big body receiver. They need someone who can block, and Lazard is a very, very good blocker. Big red zone threat. He's like 6'5". They need a big receiver. Is he perfect? No. Is he comparable to what Corey Davis can do in this offense when healthy? I would say yes. And he's a good blocker. I think that would potentially be the move there. And again, he would be probably like your third option behind Moore and Garrett. Dave from New Brunswick says, oh, wait, is Bryce Hall active? I guess he is. You know what? I didn't even think of that, but you're right. I guess he is because your only inactives today are, I'll read it again one more time. Mike White, Uzama, Robinson, Anai, and Irvin Charles. So yeah, I guess Bryce Hall is active today. I didn't even realize that. Thank you. Hennessy says this will be Zach's last game in a Jets uniform. It very well could be, but I also wouldn't be surprised if they held him as quarterback 3 because I don't know what you were going to get in a trade package for him if they'd get anything, and I don't think you're going to just outright cut him. I don't think that makes sense with the cap situation to just cut him. So there's a very good chance that if you can't move him, that he'll be back in some capacity. Yeah, but he says he sees more as Zach says he sees more as a slot receiver going forward. I agree, but I don't think that necessarily allocates him as wide receiver 3. There's plenty of good receivers who are, wide receiver 1s or 2s that play in the slot. Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle are good examples of that. Jacob says Jeff Smith. Oof. All right, guys, that's going to do it for me on this pregame live. Remember, I'll be on with Ryan and Green Bean at the half and Jets Chaos, even though he doesn't really speak too much in there, at halftime over on Green Bean's channel. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I'll be back covering the game, post-game video after tonight. And yeah, one more time, thank you for tuning in. Matt O'Leary. Catch you next time. Subscribe if you're new also. And leave a like.